This week's Good Trouble features a lot of arguing and Becca's big decision, so let's break down episode 9 and find out just what happened. What's going on, you lovely people? Lisa here, and it is time for some good trouble. So I'm going to be upfront with you guys real quick. So the recaps for this show aren't doing that great on my channel, not like they did when I recapped The Fosters. So I'm going to finish this first season out, see how they do, and then next season I'm not sure if I'll do individual recaps or wait for the whole season to be over, but we'll play that by ear. But for now, I will finish out this season. We only have like 3 or 4 episodes left. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But this week's episode, we take a step back from Mariana's work drama to take a look at everybody else's drama, and you know there's a lot of it, so let's dive in. So remember how Callie kind of broke things off with Gael because he was being a distraction to her? Well, now the tables have kind of turned as we see Callie kind of find excuses to go up to Gael's apartment all the time, usually involving bringing paperwork or something related to his sister's case. Now if you remember, Gael and Brian, they're now exclusive, and Gael's worried about not getting enough people to come out to his art show. So Brian suggests that Gael brand himself and suggests maybe posting sexy photos with his art on Instagram or reaching out to the queer community, other things like that. But it seems like Gael's not really gung-ho on this idea. He doesn't want to label himself or confine himself or, be labeled like a queer artist, stuff like that. So Gael starts to do some thinking, and he's kind of caught by Davia and Mariana trying to take these sexy shirtless photos. So he decides to go ask Davia, who's a social media guru, for some advice, and she obviously puts herself out on social media. She does give him some advice, and then Mariana tells Gael that he could, if he wanted to, reach out also to the Latinx community or something like that, but that he should be the one to define his own work before someone else does it for him. Basically, control your own narrative if you can. So then when Callie comes to pick up paperwork from Gael, she offers to take some photos for him and then kind of takes a little jab at Brian, saying that she has a better eye for that kind of stuff than Brian, which just kind of sets Gael off to be like, look, woman, you're the one who told me I was a distraction, but here, and that you didn't have time for a relationship, but here you are, after this whole Latin lover fantasy, you're with the all-American boy, you have time for Jamie. And he pretty much just calls Callie out and it's like, this is not Callie's world, and yeah, things get pretty intense and real, and I don't know if anybody's ever really called Callie out for some of this stuff. And well, she ends up storming out, and Brian happened to be outside and overheard everything, but hides so that no one knows that he was there. We later see that Gael has decided to let Brian help him take some pictures of himself and his art. We don't really know exactly what route Gael's gonna go with how he's gonna brand himself. These don't look like sexy pictures, so he might not be going that way. Now when it comes to Alice, Mira, Sumi's fiance, wants to throw Sumi this surprise shower, so they get together to kind of plan it. And we learn from a conversation that Alice has with Mariana that Alice and Sumi still have these lunches with Alice's parents, but neither of them are out to those parents yet. And we also learn that Alice's family really likes Sumi, and if her parents did know that they were dating and broken up, that they would have picked Sumi in the breakup. And that's kind of like, ouch, right? Well, then we get to see the family lunch, and I'm honestly not surprised by that statement anymore because Alice's mom loves Sumi and then is pretty much the stereotypical Asian parent, unfortunately, putting Alice down for not having a boyfriend, not being successful like her brother. All of this, it ends up forcing Alice to say that she is dating someone, but instead of taking this opportunity to come out, she's not quite ready for that yet. So when her mom asks, what's the guy's name, Alice says, Joey. Well, the name is Joey, but yeah, Joey's not a guy. So then Alice's mom starts to ask if Joey is Chinese, and Alice gets flustered until Sumi steps in to say, hey, look, I'm engaged. We then see Alice's parents ask Sumi, the name of her fiance, and she says Mira and comes out, and Alice's parents ask if she's gay, and then she says yes, and then the parents are crying and disappointed. But then we gotta rewind because that just ends up being what Alice is seeing in her head play out. But it doesn't actually happen. Instead, Sumi doesn't come out to Alice's parents either and says that her fiance's name is Myron. Then we have Alice and Mira getting together to plan this shower, and Mira tells Alice that Alice is actually really funny and that's something that she's kind of jealous of. She wishes she could make Sumi laugh like Alice did. And she mentions that maybe Alice should, try stand-up or something. And well, Alice is like, well, Joey, my friend, really wants me to come on her radio show, so maybe I'll do that. But she says that she's been too scared that she won't be funny, so Mira just tells Alice to be herself. Well, be careful what you wish for, Mira. Alice does end up going on Joey's radio show, and at first she chokes, just telling a string of awkward jokes, trying to force this funny until Joey tells her during a song break to just relax and talk about herself because that's when she's funny. So Alice does just that, gets comfortable, starts telling stories about her life, which also end up being about her, relationship with Sumi and whatnot. And you know what? Guess who's listening? Mira, and she is not too happy about what Alice is saying about Sumi and even her. But you know what? Alice does prove to be funny, so much so that Joey's friend texts her wanting Alice to be part of her comedy show, which could be this big break for Alice. So Alice is kind of like, okay, and she even scores a second date from Joey, until Mira ends up showing up to yell at Alice for what she said on the radio show. She's trying to be like, Sumi's such a great friend to you and all this. I'm like, really, lady, you think that Sumi's been a good friend to Alice lately? I don't think so. And well, there's this whole arguing about cheating and all of this that Sumi does hear from outside. Maybe doesn't know the exact words that they're saying, but knows they're arguing. And so she comes in, and Mira is quick to say that the argument is actually about something else, and she has to spill, the details about this surprise shower in order to not tell Sumi exactly what they were arguing about. But it doesn't really matter because all of this has already gotten into Alice's head, so she talks to Joey and is like, I can't really do your friend's show. So Joey, she's like, maybe then we shouldn't do this dating thing, this relationship thing, because she realizes that clearly Alice is not over her ex. So then we see Alice start to type what's really going on to Joey about how she's not out to her parents, but instead she deletes the text after typing it, leaving the worst feeling for Joey. When you're texting someone and then you see them start to write back with those little ... bubbles, it's like keeps going for a while and then all of a sudden it stops and you just never get a text back. It's just cold, man. As for Malika, her drama comes in the form of her brother and mother. So Dom, her brother, shows up at Duoro, the bar that she works at, to drop off this letter from their mom. Now he says their mom wants to make amends. See, Malika, she just doesn't want to read that letter, and she ends up meeting with Jamal's mom to kind of talk about their next steps with the protests and all that. And she ends up getting some advice from Jamal's mom about her own mom.
All I want is a relationship with Dom.
Then when I first lost Jamal, I learned sometimes you have to go out in the world to find your family. You got your friends, you got me now.
Malika also then talks to Davia and Mariana about the situation, and Mariana tells her story about Anna, her birth mother, and how it was rocky at first, but Jesus wanted to give Anna a second chance, and it ended up actually being really healing for them, and Anna had a good turn, obviously. But Mariana tells Malika, that was her story, but Malika doesn't have to do anything she doesn't want to. We then see Malika look at the letter, then go to her mom's house, and Malika's mom kind of praises Dom for being this good son and taking care of her and putting down Malika in her own kind of way, and thinks that Malika must have money by the way she dresses. And Malika then brings up that she actually didn't read the letter because she felt like anything her mom had to say to her, she could say to her face. But Malika's mom says she just wanted to let Malika know that she forgives her. And you can see Malika's blood just start to boil. Malika's mom then just tries to be like, I was getting my life back together when you called child services, and that she was wrong and she's sorry. And then we have Malika also saying she was wrong and she's sorry, thinking maybe there is a glimpse of some changes in her mom. But then her mom pretty much asks Malika for money to help support her. So Malika does leave some money, but then goes back out to her car, and you can see just how upset she is. Now, as she's sitting in her car, she does see Dom walk out and leave. So she waits until her brother gets back, and he comes back with a bunch of alcohol. So Malika confronts him and basically calls him out for being an enabler and saying that mom hasn't changed. And he's like, well, that's the only mom we got. And she's like, that's not true. You have friends. There's other people that can support you in a way that mom never could, like a real mom should. But Dom doesn't care, and he goes back into the house with mom. And after this encounter, we see Malika make a change. You see, she had previously promised, Callie that she wouldn't, sit next to Jamal's mom at these hearings and all this, and she told Jamal's mom that she couldn't come to this next hearing, but then we see her show up in court sitting right next to Jamal's mom. So yeah, that's not something Callie and Judge Wilson are happy to see. Now on to Callie and Becca. As expected, work is a little awkward because of Becca's hookup with Jesus. Now as they're heading to court, Ben asks Becca about her job prospects, and Becca says she has one with a smaller firm in Denver and then one with one of the best firms in the country, but she doesn't know just what she wants to do yet. They end up getting in the elevator, and Kate, who you know is Judge Handelman's new clerk we met last week, happens to be in that elevator, and then to make the ride more awkward, Judge Wilson slips into the elevator. And there's some looks exchanged, and we see in a flashback that Callie actually brought up to Wilson how Handelman wasn't supposed to have female clerks, and she heard that, he had some handsy situations and all of that. Well, then later when they're in Wilson's office discussing the case that they're working on and what he should do, Becca and Kelly, of course, clash on their views of what should be done about this person who was in a drive-by, shooting situation. And then the subject of willful blindness comes up. Willful blindness is basically where a person seeks to avoid liability in wrongful act by intentionally keeping themselves unaware of facts that would render them liable. Which, of course, Callie ends up bringing up, causing some looks from Becca, and Becca kind of figures out what's going on, and she confronts Callie asking if she told Judge Wilson what happened to her with Handelman. Callie says she did say she heard rumors but didn't name names, but Becca's basically like, well, he's gonna know it's coming from me, and she gets defensive. Callie ends up informing Becca that Wilson can't do anything unless a witness comes forward, but this just pisses Becca off more as she kind of threatens to tell some of Callie's secrets. Then Becca goes to see her mom, and she brings up the Handelman situation and all this, and her mom basically says that Becca and this generation are too sensitive, and she has that, men will be men or boys will be boys attitude. She just tells Becca to kind of let things go because the family doesn't need a scandal, and her grandfather pulled some big strings to get Becca that job offer at that prestigious firm, and that Becca should be grateful she was born into such a great family and she didn't have to earn everything. Well, this definitely is kind of a wake-up call for Becca, as pretty much it seems like her own mother just cares about the family reputation over her own daughter's well-being. So Becca goes to Judge Wilson to say she filed a sexual harassment complaint against Judge Handelman, and while she knows the investigation probably won't lead anywhere, because who would believe a clerk over a powerful judge, she needed to do it for herself and any new clerks.
Something wrong is happening and you don't do something about it, especially if, someone else might be victimized, you're as responsible as the perpetrator, even more so if you're in a position of power.
So what happens next? Well, when Callie shows up for work the next day, Becca's desk is empty, and Wilson informs her that Becca filed a complaint and that he also did, asking for Handelman's removal. He also says that Becca left early to accept that job in Denver with a smaller firm and to spend time with her family. Now when Callie goes back to her desk, she finds a letter from Becca telling Callie that she was right and how Becca realized that she kept letting her family open doors for her and all of that, and if she kept doing that, no one would ever believe that she earned anything and she would never be her own person. So that's why she left to take that job at the small firm, and she does thank Callie for challenging her, and she says that she admires Callie and that Callie's secrets are safe with her. Now Becca says she may never agree with Callie's politics, but she understands her, and it's kind of this sweet, truce, if you will, and even the secretary is kind of impressed, being like, I didn't get a letter. So then it seems like things are good until they end up going into court for the latest Jamal Thompson hearing, and Callie sees that Malika is sitting next to Jamal's mother, and Judge Wilson also sees that, and he ends up surprising them by ruling that the police officer's records stay sealed, which is obviously not the outcome any of them, Callie or Malika, wanted. So now Callie thinks back to a conversation she had with Jamie where they were talking and thinking that Judge Wilson couldn't be bought, but maybe he could have been bought with this whole situation with his son Tate. And thus kind of ends the big events of this week's episode of Good Trouble. Now I'm actually kind of sad to see Becca go. I mean, she was finally becoming likable. You kind of understood where she was coming from, at least, even if you didn't agree with her politics or how she clashed with Callie, you got a better understanding for where she came from, who she was. You saw some evolution with her, and just like that, they just rip her away from us. I get it though, Molly McCook, who plays the role, is like a series regular on another show, and I think she just booked something else, so she is a busy woman. But Becca was great, and I'm sad because now we're left with just Ben, who's a jerk, who I want to punch in the face every time he opens his mouth. Now Ken Kirby, he's not a jerk, obviously. He's an actor. He's playing this role, and he's playing this role really good to make this guy believably irritating. But, maybe now we'll see him start to evolve. I'm curious how this whole thing with, Malika and Judge Wilson and, his son and all of that is going to play out. Will Kelly be able to keep supporting the judge and his secrets, or will, her conscience be like, dude, Judge Wilson, you can't be like this, or what? How's that going to play out? I don't know. Seems like a lot of drama still ahead in these next few episodes, so let's go ahead and watch the promo for the next one. Next one. I can't speak.
They're coming. Get in. Let's throw this on 3rd and Main.
Hey, you're not LSK.
Brandon? Hey, this is our car!
Okay, I don't think I ever could imagine that Brandon would be an Uber driver. But you know what? LA, tough town to live in. You gotta do what you gotta do to make money, man. And Ubering's not a bad gig. People always need a ride here in Los Angeles. It's just funny that it's such a small world that he picks up, his sisters. Yeah, that's gonna be fun to see exactly how they explain him to Gaella. They're just gonna be like, this is my brother, or is the truth gonna come out? we'll have to wait and see. But it should be a fun episode. I'm glad David Lambert's back for one, and Brandon's such a fun character. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited, but now it's time for you to hit the comments and let me know your thoughts on this week's episode. Are you sad to see Becca go? What do you think's gonna happen with all these things that are going on? I don't know. So much could happen. The moms are coming back in an episode too, so that's gonna be exciting. But yeah, sound off in the comments, let me know your thoughts and theories, and then after that, don't forget to subscribe and check out more of my videos and recaps and stuff right over here. As always, I'm Lisa. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time.